Working on a couple things here.
Thank you to all of the community leaders and elected officials today for the opportunity to address this virtual convention of the DeKalb County Democrats.
Oh,
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Steve Parker, and along with Gloria Moore, I co-chair the Special Events Committee at DeKalb Dems. Welcome to our second forum for Democratic candidates running for office. DeKalb Dems is excited to present this forum along with our partners from both Clayton and Houston County Dems. You're going to get a chance to hear from candidates running for two very important commissioner races. The first half of this forum will be for candidates running for Commissioner of Agriculture, followed by candidates for Commissioner of Labor. Thank you so much to all the folks behind the scenes, especially Paula Anderson, who is helping us broadcast this on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. Since we have over 100 people in our audience, we will not be able to answer all of the questions, but if time allows, we will try to get to them. Please feel free to post questions in the chat, and we will do our best to pick up some of those. We do want to hear from you, And we also ask that you post questions and comments on Facebook as well. We will also be posting links to make it easier for you to make a contribution to DeKalb Dems, Houston Dems, and Clayton Dems. And we appreciate all of your support. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our Democratic Party Chair for DeKalb Dems, John Jackson. And John, I'll turn the program over to you.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you to everyone with special events who's put these amazing forums together. We've been putting together really strong forums really since the beginning of 2020 when we had the DeKalb County Sheriff's Candidate Forum. And we've prioritized forums really at every level, from local to the United States Senate races. We've had forums, and our strong down ballot is going to be a big reason why we're able to turn this state blue. So it's important to really tune in and pay attention to the candidates that we have here today. I am thrilled that two of my fellow county committee chairs are on here tonight. I'm lucky to call both of them friends. Directly to the south of us, DeKalb County, we have Clayton County Democratic Committee Chair Sakari Johnson is here, as well as an hour and a half south of us in the Black Belt, a region that we have to turn out if we want to win and if we want to take the legislator. Houston County Democrats Chair Courtney Driver, who also runs the Democratic Party of Georgia's Veterans and Military Families Caucus with myself. So we are grateful to have our partners here today. We understand the work that Georgia Democrats are doing across the state is going to make a difference and help us elect America's first Black woman governor, Stacey Abrams, come November. So I'm going to hand it over to Houston County Democrats Chair Courtney Driver now. So you can take it away, Courtney.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us. We in Houston County always enjoy when we get to partner with other county committees, such as the amazing DeKalb Democrats and Clayton County Democrats. Thank you for being with us on this Saturday afternoon for this very important forum. Houston County is down in middle Georgia. Like John said, we're about an hour and a half away from Atlanta. We are a small but very active county committee. We have worked hard in these last election cycles to flip our county, but we still have a lot of work to do. We flipped Warner Robins by electing the first Democratic mayor in years, the first African-American woman mayor that we're excited about. And we also have a slate of candidates this cycle that we're very excited about, in our state house candidates, including myself. And we are working hard to flip the rest of our county blue and electing leaders that have our best interests at heart. If you would like to follow what we're doing and be involved, if you're a candidate and would like to join us, we meet on the third Saturday of the month at 12 noon. And it's always open. We're always welcome to have candidates come and join us. And I will turn it over to Sakari Johnson, Chair of Clayton County Democrats.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you so much. I see some familiar faces. Hi, Nakima. Hi, Fred. Hi, listen. Thank you for being here. I am Sakari Johnson, Chair of the Clayton County Democrats. Clayton County Democrats needs no real introduction, but we are College Park, we are Forest Park, we are Lake City, we are Lovejoy, Morrow, Riverdale. We are the home of entrepreneurs and families in the world's busiest airport. We are the most Democratic county in the state of Georgia, where we have our voice heard. I'm excited to hear about the candidates tonight in a forum platform. You guys have been here to Clayton and for our meet and greets, but this is an opportunity to educate the voters with questions that we need to make a decision on which one of you will represent us. Now what I would like to introduce our moderator, Maria Fernandez, who is a healthcare professional at Emory Johns Creek Hospital. Maria?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the intro. I just want to give a quick shout out. I was supposed to be joined here today with the incredible Alexis Johnson. Unfortunately, she had a family emergency come up. So I ask everyone who is joining us today to just hold her and her family in your hearts while they go through this time of transition. So without further ado, I'm excited to get us started on today's forum. I'm just going to explain a couple of ground rules. We'll be starting today with a discussion between our candidates for Commissioner of Agriculture. I do ask that all of our candidates, please, for our agriculture discussion, if you could keep your cameras on during the conversation, it just helps it a little bit easier as we transition between speakers. You're welcome to keep yourself muted while you're not talking. That's totally fine. So let me review the ground rules. So each candidate will have a minute and a half to make an opening statement. We'll go in alphabetical order, starting with our first candidate, Winford Dukes, followed by the Ms. Nikita Hemingway, and then finally with Fred Swan. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer questions. And moderators will take turns. We will have an official timekeeper if you keep us going. And we will notify your candidates when you have about 10 seconds left. And you'll take a look and you'll see someone putting their index finger in the air. Each candidate will have 1 minute, 30 seconds to make a closing statement at the end of the question session. Okay. So let me just quickly review for those of you watching what the Agriculture Commissioner does, because it's one of those typically not considered a sexy role, but it is actually one of the most fundamental ones to our daily lives because it involves food, which is probably why I volunteered for this, because I love food. But the Georgia Department of Agriculture administers a variety of programs, all of which have a primary goal to maintain the state's viable farm industry and protect the consuming public. To accomplish these stated goals, Commissioner of Agriculture regulates and promotes Georgia's agricultural industry, which includes crops, poultry, and livestock. It regulates our agricultural practices that impact the environment, such as the use of herbicides, pesticides, fertilizer, and depositing sewage that enters the soil and water. It regulates and monitors markets such as stores and food processing plants, and monitors various programs such as school nutrition, farmers markets, produce subscription services, local restaurants, and food. It also maintains uniformity in weight and measure standards and regulates the processing and distribution of seafood products in Georgia and promotes the initiatives to rebuild Georgia's rural economy, which is so vital to the health of our state. So we'll be asking a series of questions and each of you will have an opportunity to speak. But let's first start with an opening remark from each of our candidates. I'm going to turn the mic over to Winford Dukes to start with his opening statement.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Democratic Party of DeKalb County, Houston, and Clayton County for convening us for this meeting, for this forum. I have served in the Georgia General Assembly for 26 years. I've served 16 years on the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. We have worked tirelessly as a team of Democrats to come forth with an agenda that moved the Democratic Party forward. Not only have I served in public life for a number of years, I have also served as the vice chairman of the state Democratic Party for 12 years. That vice chairmanship was candidate recruitment. Basically, we were responsible for making sure that we had constitutional officers and state representatives and state senators, and even city mayors and county commissioners that would carry the Democratic banner. I have a wealth of experience in working as a strong Democrat in this state. During my vice chairmanship, I would have to travel all over the state, serving as J.J. dinner speakers from Charleston to Rome. I want to applaud you, the Democratic committee of these 3 counties, because I know what it is like to have to assemble Democrats in your counties to make it viable for the people of our counties, to make sure that we can elect
Time call.
strong.
Thank you. Thank you, Winfred. We've got to keep it going. Sorry, but we appreciate your opening statement. Thank you so much. Next up, I'd like to turn the mic over to Nikita Hemingway for her opening remarks.
Yes, hi. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak with Houston County, DeKalb County, Clayton County Democrats. It's an honor. And the work that you guys are doing and organizing and keeping Democrats throughout the state connected is very important. And you're very visible on community. And thank you so much for that. My name is Nikita Hemingway, and I am running to be Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Georgia because I am a farmer. And I am one of 68,000 farmers in the state. Georgia was founded upon agriculture and land use. And, you know, as we talk about what the future of Georgia looks like and you're making a decision on who you want to represent you in the future, when you're making decisions about your family and why this person over that person, who you want to represent you. Oftentimes it's the things that you're not aware of that weighs heavily on that decision. Like the fact that of the 68,000 farmers in the state of Georgia, most farmers must maintain a 9-to-5 job because they're not able to make a livable wage in the state of Georgia. And so for them, farming, something that they love, has not been profitable. Food prices are the highest they have been in the past 40 years. Inflation is currently at 9%. And just a week ago, Biden stated that we're on the precipice of experiencing shortages that we've never seen before. I want you to know that your concerns, issues matter to me.
Time is called.
Yep, we need you to stop. Thank you so much, Nikita. I appreciate the intro. Thank you. We look forward to hearing more of what you have to say. I think it'll be very compelling. Next, I'm going to switch it over to Fred for your keep it to 90 seconds as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. DeKalb, Houston, and Clayton County Democrats. My name is Fred Swan, and I am running to be Georgia's next Agriculture Commissioner. Some of you remember me from being the 2018 Democratic nominee. Our ticket wasn't successful, but speaking for my race, I was able to increase my voter share by 70%, getting closer than anyone since Tommy Irvin left the seat. Like Stacey Abrams, I am back to finish what I started. It is also gratifying to see so much of what I've campaigned on in 2018 being brought into this conversation. I have to thank DeKalb, Houston, and Clayton for hosting this, and also for the great topics they're looking to cover, including food insecurity, including things with workers' rights. We're going to make real change in Georgia, and it's going to be people like you who are going to make that happen.
Thank you so much, Fred. We appreciate the lovely opening remarks. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start with questions. So what we'll start with, I'll ask the question and then I'll turn it over and we'll give each of you an opportunity to briefly answer the question. So when we reviewed what the role was of the Commissioner of Agriculture at the beginning of this statement. In your mind, is there anything that important that we left out of the job description of the Agricultural Commissioner that you would actually add? I'm gonna start that with Winfred.
Well, you actually gave a pretty good overview of what the commissioner does. You know, the primary thing that he has to be responsible for is making sure that our food supply is safe. And he has to make sure that we are able to eradicate diseases when it comes to our plant life and our lifestyle. That for him is job one. But as the Agriculture Commissioner, what I would like to do is to see if we can expand Georgia's competitiveness. Georgia currently has about 2% of the agricultural business in the nation. I introduced a study committee to specifically speak to that. Currently, Georgia is #1 in poultry, #1 in eggs, #1 in peanuts. There are other products such as tobacco, pecans, blueberries, where we move from number 1 to number 4. But what we must do is figure out how we can expand that such that we can enhance agriculture in this state. One of the things that we have to do is that in rural Georgia, agriculture leads.
I'm going to have,
Was that it?
we only have a minute per candidate, unfortunately, but we'll get into those next soon. You'll have an opportunity to talk about those areas next. Now I'm going to switch over to Nikita. Is there anything that we left out of that job description that you would want to make sure that we add?
Yes, so the most important thing is that the Commissioner of Agriculture and the Department of Agriculture advocates for Georgia families. The decisions that are made in this office impacts the daily lives of everyone, not just the farmers, but also the consumers within the state. You know, when we talk about how important food is to our survival, nutrition, hunger, those are issues that can be solved here in the state. I disagree with Mr. Dukes in that we don't need to launch commissions to research these. We just need to get out and talk to the farmers throughout the state of Georgia, which is something I'm doing. And I can already see that there's so many deficiencies just within the duties of this office that if the office actually functions in the capacity in which it was designed to do, our farmers can be more profitable. We can have better quality foods on the shelves of our stores. So this is more than just how do we impact food security. It's also about bringing a better quality of life for all people in the state of Georgia.
Thank you so much. Fred, what about you? What did we miss in our original description?
Well, you did cover it pretty well. I would say there was one glaring exception. That was companion animals. The companion animal division was not covered in your description. The Department of Agriculture oversees all county shelters, all rescues, all veterinarians. We license all veterinarians. We have a huge problem in our state of puppy mills and backyard breeders. If you are a breeder in Georgia, you're supposed to be licensed, but they find ways to get around those rules. We also don't have enough inspectors in order to make certain that animal welfare and safety is happening in this state. We actually just recently had Lawrence County Shelter closed after years and years of advocates fighting and vying to get that shelter closed. Get a little bit of media coverage, suddenly the department decides to act. Not on my watch. I plan on making certain that we make animal welfare a priority throughout the state. We also need to increase low and no cost spay and neuter in order to make certain that we're decreasing the whole animal population, among other things.
Thank you. Nice wrap up. Appreciate that. All right, next question up is, tell us your background. So I know both of you, all of you discussed a little bit about your background, why you wanted to run. Why do you think that you particularly have the skills to lead the Georgia Department of Agriculture? Mr. Dukes?
Oh, okay. Well, listen, I have a wealth of experience that I have developed from the Georgia Generals, that I've developed from the Georgia General Assembly, that addresses being able to make public policy. Also, when you go in the Georgia Department of Agriculture, it's a $50 million industry, hiring over 500 employees. I serve on the Appropriations Committee. So we need to figure out the biggest thing that you're going to have to do is literally run the agency. I have developed a wealth of knowledge from so many different agriculture ventures that I have been into simply because I was sitting on the Ag Committee. We ended up going into the equine business when Harry Geisinger was trying to see if he could get horse racing to be a part of pari-mutuel betting in Georgia. We ended up doing passing a bill where that we removed taxes on timber. Georgia is #1 in timber. And when we removed the taxes, we ended up going into the timber business so that we can be able to understand how that took place. This year, we had a presentation on citrus, and we went into the citrus planting.
Sorry, I'm going to have to cut
different
you short. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. We really want to try and keep our comments to 1 minute. So next up, Nikita, can you talk about a little bit about that, about what you bring to the table?
Yes, so for starters, I am the only farmer in this race, and that matters because Georgia Ag Commission, in order to be appointed to the seat, you must be a farmer, and that's listed in the Constitution. And both in the Georgia code. I know that Fred Swan started his business towards the latter part of last year, but I am first and foremost the only farmer in this space. Secondly, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 21 years old, and that's over 20 plus years of experience. Agriculture contributes 44% of all travel in the state of Georgia happens to or on a farm. Tourism is our #2 industry. So if we are to have zoning codes within the state of Georgia to address agritourism, you need someone with a tourism background who has that knowledge. And my very first business was a travel agency. In addition to that, I've also ran multinational corporations. I've handled employees. I understand this space.
Time call.
Yes, just a couple more seconds. I understand this space in a unique way in that I am the most seasoned and most experienced. Mr. Dukes likes to point out the fact that he served on the Ag Commission, but we have so many deficiencies that are happening here in the state of Georgia, and it really requires someone who has that strong professional business background. And so that is what I bring to the table, and I'm qualified.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Fred, can you please highlight your what you bring to the table?
Absolutely. I would say that my customers would be pretty surprised to find out that I'm not a farmer, given the fact that I am a mushroom farmer who sells mushrooms, and that is my only occupation, and the only way my sole source of income. So that's interesting. I was from 2014 to 2018 the 8th congressional district chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. I noticed 3 things about those counties. They were rural, agricultural, and they were poor. And I have spent much of my life dealing in rural economic development, which is a part of the Department of Agriculture. I've also spent much of that time from my previous race to this race in coalition building with so many disparate people who are working on various parts of agriculture, cannabis interests, animal welfare interests, agricultural worker interests, especially when it comes to migrant workers, such as Georgia Familiation Unitas and United Farm Workers. It is that coalition building that is going to make the real change in agriculture that we need and deserve.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask this question, and I might actually interweave one that just came in through the chat function, because I think that they're probably related. So quickly, what do you perceive to be the most urgent issue the Agriculture Commissioner must deal with in 2023? And there's as a corollary to that, and I'll give you the opportunity to choose which one you want to focus on. House Bill 1150, that's working its way through the legislature right now, if you would like to speak on that as well. Mr. Dukes?
Which one? For 1150, is that the Right to Farm Act?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, well, the Right to Farm Act, we've been looking at that for quite a while. Basically what it does is that it addresses the nuisance law. And what we were trying to do is, I didn't support it because basically we had a political law as it was existing. That is, if you move next to me and you're a farmer, then you have a year in which to file for a nuisance. But what the law currently exists, if you change your farming operations, then I have another year. That is, if you move next to me and you're planting butter beans, and a year later, and I don't file for a nuisance, and a year later, you come in with a hog farm or cattle farm, then I have another year to file a nuisance. The way the Right to Farm bill is now is that, or when it left the House, is that after the year, if you don't file for the nuisance, you don't get a chance to file again. Currently, the way it is sitting in the Senate, I think they extended it for 2 years. Okay.
Thank you. Nikita?
Yes, so to my understanding, the 1150 bill addresses the nuisance issues as it relates to chicken farms. I know firsthand that in the state of Georgia, it is a right to farm state. And one of the challenges I had in developing my farm was that some of the subdivisions that were near me wanted to claim that a cut flower farm would be a nuisance. But there's already code in the state of Georgia that supports and gives farmers the right to have their space in agriculturally zoned districts. So that nuisance law applies specifically to a particular industry, and those issues are nuanced. It shouldn't be a blanket. It shouldn't be a blanket approach in that this is the chicken industry, so we're going to say, yeah, we'll allow this, we don't allow that. But the most pressing issue is food security. The average farmer in the state of Georgia is 58 years old. In 10 years, if we don't recruit enough farmers, we will have a major food crisis. Food security is that food is important to our survival. So,
Yep.
yes.
Thank you. And I just, by the way, I love the fact that you've actually got a chicken crossing sign behind you while you're talking about the chicken law. Fred, can you talk a little bit about what your stance on either 1150 or what you see as the most pressing issue facing the commissioner?
Absolutely. Yes, the so-called Freedom to Farm Act is anything but. It is basically a handout to the corporate ag interests in order to protect them from suits by people who would be harmed by their farming practices. Especially, this has been pushed by environmental groups. I've spoken with the people on my Farmers Council, and especially Handy Kennedy, who is a cattle rancher, and he told me that he felt that it would be just a big handout to corporate ag and not someone for him who's he's a 1,000-acre rancher. And so I trust him when he says that. When it comes to the largest issue, I actually agree with Ms. Hemingway. Food insecurity is one of our chief issues. I also think that we need to be looking at the tightness of the processors in our networks and make certain that we have more processors who can make certain that we can get the foods that we want. Just want to say this, COVID showed us just how insecure our entire food network is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you, how would you approach, well, so let's actually talk a little bit about that. So much of the job would actually consist of establishing, maintaining protections. What would be your stance in terms of how you would further protections within the agricultural industry and practices? Winfred, can you speak to that again? 1 minute.
Well, when you start talking about protections, what protections are you making reference to?
It's the idea is how we regulate. So the regulations are out there to protect, we assume, the consumers as well as those who are actually employed in the industry. So can you speak to what your job or your perspective is on what your role as kind of the protector in chief in the situation?
Well, most of those things are included within state statute, because what happens is that the legislatures are the ones who pretty much began to establish how those protections exist. One of the things that I do want to correct, I don't want people to leave thinking that the Right to Farm Act just spoke to chicken farms. It's any farm that provides a nuisance, anything that you will grow. The Commission of Agriculture implements the laws that have been and the regulations that have been established by the legislature, even when it comes to the nuisance and things of other nature. In the environmentalist arena, I have always been a friend of the environmentalists. I've always been one of those people who they use as one of their go-to people to make sure that legislation that was in line or in tune with their policies and their procedures was enacted. So I have a record, a history.
Thank you so much
protection for the environment.
We appreciate you. All right, I'm going to turn it over now to Nikita. Can you speak to what your philosophy is in terms of regulations and consumer protections, as well as protections of workers?
So I agree with Winifred in that the codes are already there. The challenges we're finding in the state, when Fred was talking about animal protections. One of the things that we're learning is that how the Department of Agriculture has failed our equine and our companion animals. There is code already there. We just need to enforce the laws that currently exist and making sure that we do everything efficiently and adequately, and that there's transparency at every aspect of this office. And also, in order to change regulation or to put forth the right types of regulation that we need to see in the future, you must have an ag commissioner who has the foresight to anticipate what is likely to come. The other day, okay.
All right, Fred, can you speak to that?
Well, I will say that the regulations that currently exist in Georgia are mainly there to protect the wealthy and well-connected. They are barriers that exist there just high enough so that the big corporate ag interest can step over, but the little guy can't get through. And honestly, we need more protections to protect consumers and to protect workers. But we have interests right now. If you want to do broilers, there aren't any places to do broiler processing if it's over 1,000 chickens in the state. And that's going to cut out a huge number of people and make certain that only the big guys are the ones who are able to do chicken processing here in the state. Hemp processing, same thing. We started with 12 processors. We're down to 1. They're almost out of business because the regulations and the fees have chased them out of Georgia. And I want to change that.
Thank you so much, Fred. So that actually is a nice little segue into our next question, which is, so can we talk a little bit about the organic certification process and what you see as opportunities within your role as Agriculture Commissioner? And I'm going to turn that back over to Winford.
We have worked to develop statutes to address the organic certifications process. When you start talking, listen, the Republicans took over our house or took over this state 20 years ago. Before that, we were very consumer friendly as far as passing legislation that was there for the consumer. Even with the Right to Farm Bill. With the Right to Farm Bill, that legislation was passed by Democrats who protected our neighbors. Now they're in charge. So what they're doing is seeing if they can do, as Fred mentioned, to create an environment for large agribusiness processes. We are working to create the organic policies that are going to be good for the state. It is things that we are working through even as we speak. We have addressed it in some capacity, but it's something that we're continuing to build on.
We're going to have to call time on that. Thank you, sir. Nikita, how would you address what is your stance on our current organic certification process in Georgia?
So the standards by which the organic certification process is established is not handled by the Department of Agriculture. It's handled by the USDA. And the Georgia Department of Agriculture operates as an arm of regulating what the USDA sets for. In terms of, regulation in big ag, yes, Fred Swan and Winfred Dukes are correct. In that, I'm sorry, I hear an echo. In that, there are elements to this that supports big ag. But make no mistake, there are elements that supports our environment, that keeps the industry functioning properly. And it's not just about propping up big agriculture. It's about making sure that everyone is playing by the rules. And yes, you could argue that some of the rules are unfair, but there's an opportunity to get things right, and we're missing that. So in terms of organic certification, that is not something that is handled by the Department of Agriculture. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for clarifying that. So Fred, can you speak to that as well in terms of, what the opportunities are around organic farming in Georgia and the certification
Absolutely,
process?
and thank you for the opportunity. Just let me first off by saying I fully support organics as a form to get more regenerative agriculture and more environmentally friendly agricultural practices. That being said, yes, they are set by the USDA. However, those standards could use a lot more transparency in how they are developed. And I would love to actually advocate in Washington as the Department of Agriculture Commissioner for those. I would also like to see those costs lowered. Personally, our farm is pursuing a certified naturally grown status instead of certified organic because the cost is so high. I'm kind of a small farmer and I really can't afford those. So there's a barrier to entry that is keeping people out of being certified organic. And honestly, yes, I can't control it, but I can lobby on behalf of that. And I would love to actually fight on behalf of getting more organics in Georgia.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask two quick more questions before we move on to closing remarks. So quickly, can someone, how are we, pardon? Okay. So there was a question from our, so we'll answer, there's a question that came in the Q&A. We'll have our candidates actually speak to that afterwards about how we can promote small independent farming as preferable to the monoculture. But I'd like to actually turn it over to one of the other critical functions that the Department of Agriculture does, and that's in terms of our school nutrition programs and how to promote healthy and deal with food insecurity in communities. Winfred, can you talk a little bit about food insecurity and what you see as your role as Agriculture Commissioner in combating that?
Yes, basically, we passed a piece of legislation this year that spoke to moving farms or moving agriculture more to the schools, because that's something that we feel is very important, such that children can have an opportunity to understand where the food comes from. A lot of food insecurities come from the fact that even in rural Georgia, there's not an opportunity to have much fresh fruits and vegetables because the grocery stores are so far from where the people are. One of the things that we want to do is to be able to see if we can begin to create what we call urban farming. You can take a 5-gallon bucket and provide and grow more tomatoes than 2 families can eat. There is an opportunity here for us to be able to provide the fresh fruits and vegetables that we need. Further, we have to expand our farmers markets. The state of Iowa has over 200 farmers markets.
Yeah. So great opportunity there as well. Thank you so much for weighing in on that. Nikita, can you speak a little bit about how you would address food insecurity, especially with our school lunch programs?
Yes, so currently 1 in 6 kids in the state of Georgia are facing hunger. In the past year, the cost of food has more than tripled. It's the highest it has been in the past 40 years. SNAP benefits where people can pay for food is below the cost of one meal. On average, the government provides about $2.33 per meal with SNAP benefits per person for a family of 4, whereas the average meal is currently approaching $6 per meal. Nutrition can be solved and addressing food insecurity can be solved by education, opportunity, and resources. The most important thing is that we amplify the education opportunities of our kids. So we have agricultural programs in every school throughout the state, and they start learning it at a very early age. The second thing is opportunity. We must open up seed banks throughout the state of Georgia, and they can be attached to, seed libraries can be attached to public libraries where if you can't afford to buy seed, you can check out seed. It's a very efficient program and it helps. And the other is resources.
Time, please. So Fred, if you can do your final comment on that, and then we're going to switch over to closing remarks so we can move on to the next part of the segment. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. So with regard to food insecurity and school lunches. I would like to say, yes, I agree with Ms. Hemingway that we need agricultural programs in every school throughout the state. We also need, especially in agricultural areas, more classes related to agriculture and more agriculture in those classrooms, more agriculture in biology, more agriculture in math. We need community gardens at the schools where students are helping to grow food that may go into their local cafeteria so that they can actually see the whole life cycle and understand where it comes from. This will actually help while we're trying to increase the number of small family farmers throughout the state in order to actually get more of those farmers markets that Representative Dukes was talking about. And I've advocated for that for years so that we can have more fruits, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and fresh meats in more communities throughout the state.
Thank you. All right, so thank you, candidates, for those great remarks. We are gonna we'll be pulling all the questions that have come in through the chat and ask our candidates to speak to all of those, so that if you haven't had a chance to ask your question, please feel free to put it in the chat and we'll make sure that that gets posted to the DeKalb Dems site. Finally, if I can please ask you to, you have 90 seconds each to do your closing remarks. Winfred, I'll let you go first.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you all for convening this opportunity for us to be able to share ideas and exchange those with you. But you know, we're at a crossroads in Georgia politics. We are not going to be able to win by a little. We are going to have, all ties are going to the Republicans. We are going to have to win, and we're going to have to win big. And in order to do that, we're going to have candidates up and down this ticket who have a proven track record of winning races. I've had 13 races. No one has ever even come close, because when it comes right straight down to it, I have a track record of service and a track record for working for the people of the great state of Georgia that propels me. I also have a track record of coming from a part of the state where that is what we do. We do agriculture. I am involved in 3 or 4 different agriculture ventures in South Georgia because everybody's involved. That's who we are. We are going to have to field a candidate for November who knows how to go door to door, house to house, street to street, and farm to farm, because this is going to have to be a Democratic year.
Thank you.
I can appreciate Tito.
Thank you, sir.
And I
Thank
can
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
We coming to win.
I definitely support a Democratic win in November. Nikita, your closing remarks, please.
Yes, there's an echo. So representation matters, integrity matters. As Mr. Duke stated, that he's held positions in the state house for over 16 different years, yet majority of Georgia is living below poverty in the very communities he represents. Those families are dealing with food apartheid because there are lack of grocery stores, lack of resources in those communities. Look at his track record. What has he done? When we talk about races and being a quality candidate, having quality candidates up and down the ballot, I ran in 2020 against Chuck Efstration, who co-authored the hate crimes bill in the middle of Black Lives Matter, where Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor lost their lives. He raised $1.3 million. We raised 185,000, and we came up 779 votes shy. So if you're only interested in winning, I have the best track record for winning. Representation matters. Fred Swan only became a farmer in 2021 when he learned that you had to be a farmer in order to run for this race. But go back and look at the records. Don't take my word for it. Go look at other forums he's been on. When he was asked during a forum against Gary Black, why do you think you're the best person for agriculture when you were an insurance salesperson for Geico? And he will tell you because he doesn't have that record. representation matters, and what the farmers need in Georgia need, what
Thank
the
you.
families of Georgia need is
Thank you,
someone who
Nikita.
is going to fight for you.
Thank you, Nikita. Fred, I'm gonna let you finalize the remarks. Please keep it to 90 seconds.
Thank you. I believe the way one campaigns provides a great insight into how they will govern. And governing requires more than a few cute Instagram posts and paying half attention during your committee meetings. It requires meeting people where they are in their communities, on their farms. That's why I'm doing this forum from this hotel room when I went to a rally in Sylvania. I'm meeting with farmers, animal rights and environmental activists, and community leaders to learn from them and see firsthand the challenges they're facing. I'm a mushroom farmer. It's my only job. It's always disappointing when people try to narrow definition of farmer because it tends to exclude small scale farmers, Black farmers, disenfranchised farmers. That is why the motto of our campaign is agriculture for all. Folks, we have a historic opportunity to change the face of agriculture here in Georgia, but I need your help. If you would like to join our movement, then please go to fredforgeorgia.com, all words, all one word, or go to facebook.com/fredforgeorgia, Twitter @fredforgeorgia, Instagram fredforgeorgia, and together we will make agriculture for all a reality in Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that portion of our program. It's so nice to have our passionate candidates that are excited about this. As someone who grew up in Minnesota and who lost her father in a fumigation accident because of lack of regulation, I am so excited to be a part of this conversation today. So thank you all for sharing your expertise and passion with our voters today. Now we're going to switch gears and go over to our Labor Commissioner conversation. And likewise, we will follow an alphabetical process in terms of our candidates. I'm going to turn it over. Each of you will have 90 seconds to give an introductory remark about about your platform, and then we will go through each of the questions. I ask all please candidates, I know that we get excited about what we're talking about. Please try to keep it to 90 seconds for your intros and 1 minute for your responses. I know there's a lot to cover. We want to make sure that we have the fairest and most efficient process possible. Thank you. So now I'm going to turn it over to William Body to start us off with the Labor Commissioner introductions, please.
Thank you so much for the DeKalb County Dems, the House County Dems, and the Clayton County Dems for having me this afternoon. My name is State Representative William Bodie, and currently represent parts of South Fulton and Douglas County in House District 62. I have been the House Democratic Whip in my time in the General Assembly. I was first elected to that position of House District 62 back in 2016. I'm running to be the next Georgia Labor Commissioner because I want to make sure Georgia workers are put first and foremost with the Department of Labor. When I was in elementary school, my father lost his job at Zehrs Warehouse because Marshall bought out Zehrs retailer at the time. He lost his job to no fault of his own, and he had to call in every Sunday to recertify for 5 weeks to get his unemployment benefits. If he would not have had a labor commissioner that cared, my family would have lost everything. But I'm here before you today as a candidate for labor commissioner, as a lawyer, as a former House Democratic whip, and as a small business owner. And so my family needed the help of the Department of Labor, and the Labor Department was there. And I looked at do that for Georgia citizens. I will modernize the technology, I will expand the career centers, and I will hire more employees. And I will partner with the Labor Commission, labor unions to make sure we have apprenticeship opportunities. I'm endorsed by over 160 Democrats across the state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And my apologies for getting your name wrong. This is Bodie, not Body. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm sure you get that all the time. I get Maria instead of Maria. I feel you. So it looks like we do not have Thomas Dean here with us today. Is that correct, Steve? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and then move it over to Nicole Horn to give your introductory remarks, please.
Sorry about that. I have to unmute myself. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. I want to talk about my history of moving from a Democratic voter to a Democratic activist. I made that jump when George W. Bush won his second term, and I was just heartbroken. And I said, never again. From that moment, I was on, once Barack Obama became the nominee, I was pregnant with my daughter and went up to South Carolina to canvass for President Obama to make sure he won South Carolina. And since then, I have canvassed and phone banked for every gubernatorial and presidential candidate. And in 2016, created an indivisible fifth group so we could fight Donald Trump. I've sold my company and I'm ready to take that next step into being a candidate and having an even bigger impact on Georgians. I'm blown away that Georgians could not receive their unemployment insurance benefits. We've seen a spike in evictions as a result of that. We need somebody who understands the change that's demanded, but also who will address underemployment in our state, who will build better pathways to better jobs, and who will work with our criminal justice system to help returning citizens find jobs. I look forward to the conversation and sharing more. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nicole. All right, now, Lester Jackson, can you give your introductory remarks, please? 90 seconds.
Good morning, proud Democrats. I'm Lester Jackson. We need a labor commissioner who understands the needs of hardworking Georgians and their quest for a livable wage, their quest for equal pay for equal work. We need a labor commissioner who understands that for Georgia to grow and be a strong state, they need strong union support. We need a labor commissioner that can effectively address the unemployment and underemployment of Georgians. I'm that candidate. After 20 years serving in state government, 7 years in the United States Navy serving proudly, 25 years as a small business owner, I'm ready. I will put Georgia back to work. I understand hard work. My first professional job was a bricklayer. I understand what it's like to work with my hands. Had the opportunity to go to college, had the opportunity to get a terminal degree. But I understand that 20% of jobs only going to require a college education. 80% of jobs are going to require some sort of technical and vocational career. I'm ready to put Georgians to work by going into classrooms, encouraging young people to use their hands, use their skills so they can have a diploma in their right hand when they graduate, but a skill in their left hand. I want to take job opportunities into our jails, into our prisons, to provide opportunities for those when they get out. Our state will embrace them and put them back to work. I'm Lester Jackson. I want to move Georgia forward, and with your help, we will.
All right. We'll back that up with some questions. All right. And then finally, but certainly not least, Nadia Surency, please. Or is it Surency?
Sure, it's Nadia Surency. So thank you to Democrats for having me, and we greatly appreciate all the work that you have contributed to the community as well. As you mentioned, my name is Nadia Surency, and I'm running for Georgia Labor Commissioner. I'm a first-generation college student, and I believe education is important. I believe that this role needs someone that can place the human element back into the Department of Labor. And I have 3 college degrees, one in business management, human resource management, and law. My most recent degree was earned from Emory University School of Law, and I'm a serial entrepreneur that has, I would say, definitely a deep passion for law, business, technology, and community building initiatives. And I think that's what this role needs. It needs someone that can come into this role on day one with the necessary skills to make a significant impact internally from a people and operations perspective, as well as externally with making sure that the Georgia workers are entitled to and qualify and get paid the money that they're owed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I lost my mute button there. Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I'm going to briefly just talk a little bit about what the job description actually entails for those of you who aren't familiar with what the Labor Commissioner actually does for the state of Georgia. I'm sure our candidates are very familiar with it. the Commissioner of Labor works for both employees as well as employers. For employees, it provides opportunities and access to employment, training, and support services. It oversees the state's unemployment insurance program and administers laws relating to employee safety and child labor. For employers, it assists employers with recruitment and selection services, technical support, and workforce information, bringing together national, state, and local governments to enable workforce development. In addition, the Labor Commissioner provides statistics and research so Georgians have accurate information and analysis of trends affecting workers, businesses, and the economy. So I'm actually going to skip ahead a couple of questions that were offered to me because I think that a couple of you highlighted this in your opening remarks. Can you talk a little bit about what employment and labor issues the COVID pandemic highlighted in the state of Georgia? And what are some of the innovative strategies for dealing with them that you see as possibilities? And then do you feel that our state has enough protections in place for both workers and employers when disasters such as this occur? And I'm going to start that with William, if you don't mind. William?
Yes. Right now in the state of Georgia, we do not have enough protections for workers. We saw that during the COVID-19 pandemic. Actually, my time in the Georgia General Assembly in 2020, Republicans passed the Business COVID-19 Immunity Bill, which basically did not protect frontline workers. So I'm going to make sure all workers are protected. I spoke out against that legislation, HB 112, and I will continue to fight for workers. We need more bills to protect workers. Right now, I have a bill 1390 that's on the Senate floor that's going to protect any worker that files a sexual harassment claim against a city or county employer. That bill will probably be my 25th bill that I have passed as a Democrat in the Georgia House of Representatives. So we need more protections at the legislative level. We need a labor commission that's going to protect workers, and I'm that labor commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for staying within time too. I appreciate that. You're good egg. All right, so next up, Nicole, can you speak to what you saw as coming out of the pandemic in terms of protections and what we should be doing going forward so that we're better protected?
Absolutely. Well, what we saw was the Department of Labor completely failed to respond. The Department of Labor is in charge. The main part of their job is providing that safety net. So that safety net does not work right now. That's the core of it. We need to staff. We need technology that's flexible. We need to recognize that $325 a week will not cover rent anywhere in DeKalb County. The safety net needs to be deeper and last long enough that people can be thoughtful in their job search. We also need a system that's effective in helping people get back to work. This means having a job board that doesn't have jobs on it from 2017, which is what Employ Georgia has on it now. We also need to work across silos with other departments. I watched as working moms like myself struggle to find childcare resources. We should be talking with the Department of Early Child Care and Learning to do just that as one example.
Thank you so much. Lester, would you like to speak to what you saw coming out of this shared nightmare we've been living through?
In this shared nightmare that we've been living through, what we need to do is start encouraging entrepreneurship. We're finding out that thousands of Georgians were not able to go back to work. And we found that many of them starting home businesses. So as your next labor commissioner, we need to do grants for people to encourage people to start their own business. If they want to work at home, we need to encourage that. We need to have grants for those. If you want to start your own business, start your own entrepreneurship, we need to encourage that. And also we need to classify the Labor Department employees as essential workers. If hospitals and nurses can go back to work, if the post office can open, the Georgia Department of Labor can open its doors. I found out during this pandemic, the almost 100 offices located across the state, many was closed and many are still closed. As your labor commissioner, I'm going to declare that the employees of the labor office are essential workers, and we must open our doors so people can have access to the Labor Department.
Thank you. All right. And I don't know what's going on with your camera there, sir, but you seem to be zooming in and out, which Maybe a little unsettling for people who are motion sickness. But
Let me fix
thank you.
that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next up, Nadia, can you speak to those issues as well? You're on mute. Nadia, you're still on mute. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Okay, can you hear
There
me?
we go.
Now? Okay.
Now we
okay.
got you.
Okay, so I would say that the pandemic exposed issues within the system from an operational perspective, from a technology perspective that could have been known internally, but we were unaware externally as someone that's never maybe had to go through that system and that experience. And I think that from a worker protection perspective, the workers were not protected. And I think that there should be transparency in those policies, in those regulations that will be implemented for the next labor commissioner that goes into this role, hopefully me. And I think that transparency and communication and visibility is going to be the most important aspect in order to protect the Georgia workers in this election.
Thank you so much. So we'll just continue on with this conversation a little bit. In terms of how we can actually streamline the processes and make the Labor Commission's programs and services more available, what do you see as some of the greatest opportunities that we have within this role? William, if you can touch on that.
So we definitely need to streamline the process. So we could do that by modernizing the technology. As I stated earlier, the technology of the Department of Labor is antiquated. It's not been upgraded since the early 2000s. Also, we can start to display and advertise worker opportunities on Facebook and other social media platforms. We also need to hire more employees as well to process the claims in a timely manner. Your appeals, your unemployment insurance claims, and also just answering basic questions from workers. What's my PIN number? So accessibility, modernizing the technology, and also using social media as a platform to get the message out about the Department of Labor. And I will do that as your next Georgia Labor Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole, what is your vision for how we can streamline and improve efficiencies within the department?
Well, Representative Bodie talked about this. I mean, we are run on an antiquated technology. And the crazy thing is, we were awarded a federal grant that Mark Butler just chose not to use. So that created the backup. People had to try and reach out to the Department of Labor to try and figure out their PIN number. There was just a mess. Our current labor commissioner cut staffing in half. We can do better. And it starts, my mantra is going to be processes, people, and technology. Let's first improve the processes, because right now 80% of people are actually turned down. That's a broken process. Then you staff up and get new technology. I also believe in R&D, rip off and duplicate. There are states doing this well. There are states like Tennessee that are reaching out to people when they start the application so that they have an easier time applying and receiving their benefits faster.
Thank you. Lester, what do you think? Oh, you're on mute, sir.
I think we need more technology upgrades. If we look at the current Labor Department, their computer system is antiquated. We need to retrain our staff. We need to bring in professionals to retrain the staff to be able to help process claims and make them faster. But also, we need to go back and offer new job opportunities for Georgians, to talk about the opportunities that produces livable wages all across this great state. And also go back to entrepreneurship. We need to also encourage people to be entrepreneurs. We need to give them grants, give them access to jobs that's going to be coming available in the next 10 years, so that they can be on the fast track and not only provide those jobs for high school young people coming out of high school, but retrain our adults. So technology upgrades is number one, training entrepreneurship, number two, and providing jobs that possess livable wages is foremost of my number one obligation.
Awesome. Nadia, what about you? What are you seeing as an opportunity?
Sure. So I see it as an opportunity. I do agree with the majority here in terms of implementing technology, modernizing technology, but I would say that implementing technology sounds great, right? It sounds like a great buzzword, but there's some education as well as socialization that needs to happen for any time in any instance where technology is being implemented. And that's not what I'm not hearing that as much from how can we implement it, but how can we train the internal organization as well as the external Georgia workers to utilize that technology. And so as Georgia Labor Commissioner, I will ensure that the Georgia Department of Labor is on the cutting edge of technology. And I would say that my goal would be accomplished by internally hiring the best IT professional softwares or partnering with the most qualified IT third-party vendors to update the current software systems as well.
Thank you so much. And actually that is a really good segue into my next question, which actually dovetails with the question that we got from our audience. So one of the questions I had was about your stance on labor unions, and are we on the cusp of a rebirth of the labor unions within the state of Georgia? And to add to that, what is your stance in terms of protecting contract workers, especially as the idea of the gig economy continues to grow within American society? If we could start with William, please.
Yes. First of all, I wholeheartedly believe in labor unions, and I believed in workers having the opportunity to collectively bargain and being a part of labor unions to get that done. I've been endorsed by the Georgia AFL-CIO my last 2 races. That's the statewide labor union here, governing body. But also if you look in the chat, I have been with labor across the state of Georgia, arguing and fighting to make sure these Department of Labor career centers are open. And so I am a child of labor. I believe in the House of Labor, and I will fight to make sure labor expands its ranks in the state of Georgia. Also, I want to make sure that we have more protections for labor and our Georgia workers by making sure all projects, construction projects, have project labor agreements. That is first and foremost. Governor Nathan Deal got rid of the project labor agreements. As the next labor commission, I will bring those back so labor will be at the table and we will have construction done right the first time, on time, and under schedule and under budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole, can you speak to that? The role of labor unions as well as how we can do a better job of protecting contract workers, especially in the gig economy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm the daughter of a lifetime union member. My dad was a heavy equipment operator, and which means is a fancy way of saying he built roads for a living. And I lived the middle-class American dream because of that union job. Unions and strong unions raise everyone up. And I say that because the research shows this. When we look at heavily unionized states versus non-unionized states, what we see is the average household income is significantly higher. So we need to get behind unions. I will be an advocate for ending right to work laws in our state, which are there essentially to make small cuts to unions and to harm them. I am pro-union and looking forward to working with unions to expand their apprenticeship programs and get more people into those apprenticeship programs.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Next up, Lester, can you speak to those 2 questions, those combined questions? Thank you.
Yes, I'm a proud product of a labor family. My mom and my dad were both proud labor union workers for more than 30 years. And I understand the importance of labor unions and what it means to not only Georgia, what it means to our country. The reason why we have healthcare coverage for working class families is because of labor unions. The reason we have a 40-hour work week, I understand, is because labor unions. Labor unions negotiate with businesses and employers to give us all the benefits that we have today in our country that we can live on. We need to change where Georgia is, a right to work state. We need to be pro-union. So because pro-union means pro-working families. And I don't know why this keeps zooming in and out. But we need to look at where we are, and we need to protect unions. I have been endorsed by labor unions my entire political career, over 20 years, and I will continue that fight to be an advocate for unions, to be an advocate for working families, to make Georgia grow, because without unions, Georgia cannot grow.
Thank you. All right, so Nadia, can you speak to those two questions as well?
Sure, absolutely. So as it relates to labor unions, I do believe in labor unions. I have a Master of Science in Human Resource Management, and we cover and partner with these different organizations that need our assistance, but we partner with a lot of the labor unions because we look at it from a perspective of how can we give workers the power to negotiate for more favorable working conditions. I believe that, as I previously mentioned, it's about transparency and communication. No decisions, I believe, as it relates to the protection of these workers should be made about them, without them. And so that's one of the things that the aspects and principles that I would bring to the role as well. How can we protect the contract workers as well? Bring them to the table, give them the opportunity to let us tell and showcase what they need from us. We can't help them if we don't understand what they need specifically. And so I think that bringing them to the table, having those open discussions, having that dialogue is definitely important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to ask one quick question, and then I'm going to take a question from the chat. Can you talk a little bit about Georgia Best, the Georgia Best program, and how it helps kind of set us in the right track for the skills our young people need to succeed once they graduate from school? What are your thoughts about either expanding that program, revising it, or how we could better prepare our youth for the workforce? And I'll turn that over to William, please.
So I think that's a great question. Georgia Best was a program started by this labor commissioner, Mark Butler. And it was designed to help high school students to get soft skills, communications, resume writing, interviewing skills, being on time to work. It expanded to middle school students as well, and now it's also expanded to young adults. I think we could do more. I think we need to take that program into the inner city and also into rural Georgia and coastal Georgia as well. I don't think we covered enough of our young adults and young students, and we could do a much better job of marketing the program by getting out on social media, Facebook, and other platforms to do that. So the program needs to be expanded. It is a little dated, but it works, but it could be a lot better. And I would make sure we upgrade the program as the next labor commissioner.
Thank you so much. Nicole, can you speak to that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Representative Bodie did a great job kind of summarizing what Georgia Best is. Thank you, Representative Bodie. And he's right, it is a great program, but it's not enough. I would like to see the Department of Labor build pre-apprenticeship programs for students who don't want to go to college, but want a job with a living wage. I think about my dad, who told me he would have dropped out of school if it wasn't for his shop class. I'd also like to see us offer paid internships so that we can give our students job experience so they have better opportunities while they're going through college to work at great jobs, or what's next after high school. I also would like to see, in addition to the Georgia Best program, when we talk about other great programs we should be thinking about, Georgia should offer a self-employment assistance program. And this is a program where if you qualify for unemployment, but you have an idea for a new business, you can receive unemployment benefits while you work with the Department of Labor and the Small Business Administration to get that company launched. 43% of Georgians work for a small business. I want to see us grow that number.
Thank you so much for that response. All right, so next up, Lester, if you could speak to that as well. How would you engage our youth?
Right, the Georgia Best program was a good program started by Commissioner Butler, but he did not go further enough. When I'm labor commissioner, I will introduce technical and vocational skills into middle school and high school, and also talk about other skills such as coding. We need to encourage young people to stay in school. Right now, under current Georgia law, a person at the age of 16 can drop out of high school. And I introduced a bill to extend that to 17 and maybe even 18. We need to do things to encourage people to stay in high school, because we know if they leave high school without a high school diploma or a skill, most of them will be lost. So we need to encourage people to stay in school. But to introduce things such as coding, to introduce them vocational skills such as cement finishing, auto mechanics, beginning nursing, dental assisting, will keep young people not only encouraged, but give them a sense of fulfillment while they're still in school. And I think those skills and opportunity to make money after school on weekends will not only encourage them to get a high school diploma, but also make them a better Georgian.
Thank you. Sorry, I hate cutting people off, but we need to keep on moving. Especially when you're on a roll, right? All right,
yes,
so
ma'am.
next, Nadia, please, if you could speak to that as well. How are you seeing our opportunities to engage our young people?
Sure. I'm definitely seeing the opportunities to engage our young people, because I do have a nonprofit called the Serenity Foundation headquartered here in Sandy Springs, where we cater to primarily the young women of the Atlanta community. And our program, interesting enough, sounds very similar to Georgia Best. And so I can speak definitely from my experience to say that with any program or any initiative that is launched, again, it sounds great, but how can we sustain it? And so I think that as people evolve, as our society evolves, that program needs to evolve. And so I would look at it from a level of building out a community, having the students, having the youth a part of these different conversations and these different initiatives. As I mentioned before, how can we serve you if we do not have any understanding of what you need specifically? And I think that this person within the next labor commissioner will be able to really include the people that we are trying to serve.
Thank you so much for that. And I appreciate the work that you do for our folks already. I'm gonna ask one final question. This actually comes from a couple of our speakers, our attendees. There's a lot of there's been a lot of discussion nationally around minimum wage, and our current minimum wage in Georgia is pretty appalling. What do you see as your role in terms of advocating for that to change for Georgia workers, and how would you go about doing it? So I'm going to start off with that with William, please.
Thank you so much. I have already sat down with labor and had conversations on what we need to do to expand minimum wage in the state of Georgia. Right now, our federal delegation has legislation in Congress to expand and raise minimum wage across this country to $15 an hour. Right now, the state of Georgia has $5.15 as a state minimum wage. I will go to the Georgia General Assembly, advocate that we raise that minimum wage, but not only raise it to $15 an hour, but also take into consideration inflation, cost of living, so we have an elevated scale so that we will not have a minimum wage that we have had since the 80s, that every year it will automatically ratchet up, level up, based upon inflation and cost of living. So I will make sure I lobby the General Assembly to get that done. And I've been able to get a lot done at the General Assembly in my last 5 years. So I feel pretty good about making sure we get good policy at the Gold Dome passed.
Thank you so much. Nicole, how would you advocate for that?
I think you're going to be hearing all of us say the same thing, and that is we are going to go to the General Assembly and talk about raising minimum wage, talk about making sure that we in Georgia don't have to pay for companies who are paying too little, so that our Georgians have to apply for food stamps and welfare. So we need to raise that to $15 an hour and tag it to inflation, absolutely. But it is also the job of the labor commissioner to go out and recruit the kind of companies that we want working in Georgia. And that means bringing in companies that pay a living wage, bringing in companies who are committed to ongoing education and training, bringing in companies who are good corporate citizens. And that will be part of the fight that I will bring as the next labor commissioner of Georgia.
Thank you so much. Lester, how about you? How would you advocate for this?
I think increasing the livable wage is so vitally important. Representative Bodie had it right. $15 an hour seems about right when it comes to livable wages, as we put in a consumer price index on it, and look at where we are. But when you talk about raising the minimum wage, and that's the act of the General Assembly, it's about relationships. I've had over 20 years experience working with legislators, serving in both houses, in the state House of Representatives and now in the state Senate. I know how to get legislation passed. 1/3 of the Democratic bills that passed the Senate in the last 2 years was sponsored primarily by me. So I know how to work with Democrats. I know how to work with Republicans. I know how to get legislation passed. So we need minimum wage. We need it to be $15 an hour, but also we need to encourage entrepreneurship. We need to go to the General Assembly and advocate for grants for the Labor Department. So people who don't want to, people want to start their own business, we need to give them that opportunity. And as your
Thank
next
you.
Labor Commissioner, I'm going to give them that opportunity.
Thank you so much. And then last but absolutely not least, Nadia, can you speak to that issue as well?
Sure. Similar to everyone as well, we definitely need to go to the General Georgia Assembly to raise the minimum wage as well. But I think it also, to Lester's point as well, partner with these different entrepreneurs to make sure that they are paying livable wages to the Georgia workers. I think that as time evolves, the program will evolve, and we need to have someone that will be a part of ensuring that we have a pulse of the business, we have a pulse of inflation and how that's going to affect, not just for right now, but in the future. So taking a proactive approach would definitely increase the minimum wage for the Georgia workers in the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I was unmuting myself. All right, so this is your opportunity to get that last little plug in about yourselves and why you think that you should be the preferred candidate for the Labor Commissioner. There was a request to change the order, but just in keeping a fairness for everyone that we've been doing along the way, we're going to keep it with alphabetical order. I apologize if that caused any distress. But William, if you could start and let us know why you believe you're the best candidate for this role. 90 seconds.
Thank you. I would say I'm the best candidate to be the next Georgia Labor Commissioner because I am a servant leader. I'm an experienced legislator, lifelong community advocate, and a lifelong proud Democrat. I've been able to do a lot in my short time in the Georgia General Assembly. This is my 6th-year, third term. I passed over right now 25 bills, including the Ahmaud Arbery Citizens Arrest Repeal legislation, HB 479. So I know how to get things done at the Gold Dome. Being the next Labor Commissioner and righting the wrongs of that office is going to take someone that's dedicated, that has a servant heart, but also is a committed leader and someone that is respected as a leader. I can go to the Speaker of the House, just like I can go to the House Democratic leader to get things done. So I'm here, standing here before you today, Democrats in DeKalb County, Houston County, and also Clayton County, to say I'm the candidate to be your next Georgia Labor Commissioner to help lead the blue wave coming November of this year. And so I will work with the other statewide constitutional officers because I'll probably have a relationship with them because some of them I serve with, including House Democratic leader Stacey Abrams, who's going to be our next governor. So I'm here.
Thank you, William.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to turn it over to one of our other great panelists as well. Nicole, if you can get your final plug in for yourself, that would be great.
I can do that. So I chose to run for this position because I'm uniquely qualified. I owned a company for more than 15 years that worked with universities across the country, that worked with nonprofits to use labor data to help them select programs that would help adult students get jobs. I am the only candidate who's running who has actually built and had thousands of Georgians go through my programs and then move into jobs with living wages where they're making between $60,000 and $100,000 now. I have already improved processes in big, slow-moving organizations, and I've helped implement new technology. But I also am focused on not just fixing unemployment, but fixing underemployment. I come with a vision of throwing open the doors to the Department of Labor, staffing up, getting new technology, and building apprenticeship programs so we can build better pathways to better jobs. Also working with our criminal justice system so we get returning citizens back to work as they leave. It's time to break another glass ceiling and elect our first woman as a labor commissioner. I am a working mom, and as a working mom, I understand the challenges of Georgia families. I am proud and excited to be Georgia's next labor commissioner.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, Lester, please tell us your final pitch for your campaign.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. Many of you know who I am, and I'm ready to continue to work as your next labor commissioner. I'm a lifelong Democrat, past treasurer of the Democratic Party of Georgia, past DNC member appointed by President Barack Obama, past chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, over 20 years experience in the Georgia General Assembly, a veteran of the United States Navy for 7 years, chairman currently of the Senate Urban Affairs, vice chair of the Senate Democratic Caucus. I was instrumental in putting the Martin Luther King statue on Capitol grounds, the original author of hate crime legislation, the primary author of misclassification of employees, and the author of property tax freeze for senior citizens around this state. So I'm ready to continue the work. But when I'm elected, I will give you accessibility to the labor office. I will bring job opportunities that include livable wages and entrepreneurship. And the most important, fast claims for people who want their benefits and need them now. I'm Lester Jackson, Lester for Labor.
All right, thank you, Lester. And Nadia, what's your final pitch for why you believe that you should be our next labor commissioner?
Sure, absolutely. I'm the best fit for this position because I believe Georgians need a labor commissioner that has the ability to lead in the good times and lead in adverse times. I have the necessary skills to lead Georgians to a brighter future because I think it's a new day and I believe the time is now to adapt as well as progress the needs of the people. I've been in Georgia for over 27 years and I love Georgia, but I'm running because I realize that Georgia still needs a person that has the position of power that can help them until they get back on their feet. Georgia workers need a champion that would not turn their backs when the times get tough. I was given up for adoption when I was 6 months old. So I understand what it feels like to feel left behind because I was that child left behind. I still carry that with me in terms of putting myself in other people's shoes to see what is it that I can do that can serve them, help them, and champion them for our future for today as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a very powerful statement. Thank you. I think I probably speak for a lot of the people watching today that I don't know how much this actually helps us make a decision. We've got an amazing group of candidates here who have really just been inspiring and thoughtful in their answers. And I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you for sharing your vision and your hope and dreams for Georgia. If you have, for our guests that are watching, if you could please, if there's additional questions that you would like to have these candidates answer, we will be sending them to our candidates so they have an opportunity to make sure that any additional questions are answered. And then finally, I really want to make sure that we have an opportunity to thank the incredible team that has helped put this all together. So Sakari Johnson, thank you, and Courtney for helping co-host this. Steve Parker, thank you for keeping us honest and making sure that we stick to the time as much as we can. We know that we got a lot to say. I also want to thank Dr. Bola, who has been outstanding, and Jean-Louis, who've been fantastic in helping us get us going and filling out these questions, coming up with some really, really great discussions. And I'm just so grateful to everyone. Now I'm going to turn it over to Steve to close us out.
Thank you so much, Maria, for asking all of those great questions to so many great candidates. We had all the candidates here running for labor commissioner, or most of them, and all of the candidates that are running for agriculture commissioner with us. So thank you all for being here, and Maria, you did a great job. We really appreciate this. And thank you also to Sakuri at Clayton County Dems and Courtney Driver with Houston County Dems for helping us get this information to all of our audiences. Please consider a donation to DeKalb Dems, Clayton Dems, and Houston Dems as well. And if you can help us in volunteering, we all need technical support on our committees to, make all this possible. And please consider membership in all three of these county committees. Thank you to all the candidates for being here. Great job in introducing yourself to our audience. We encourage you to consider this as a first look at these two commissioner positions, and please find more information about them. Also, thanks again to everyone operating behind the scenes, and to my co-chair, Gloria Moore, who continues to support our efforts in getting you the information that you need to make good decisions. Thank you, everyone, our audience, for being here and staying with us throughout the process. We hope to see you at our next candidate forum. It's next Wednesday, April 6th at 6 p.m., where we will hear from candidates running for mayor in the city of Stonecrest. Thank you all so much and have a great night. Bye-bye.